Sounds good.
Great. Hi, everybody. This is Susan McCracken from the Career Development Center, and today we have a special guest with us with this career meetup. We have Amy Casari from Enterprise Holdings with us. So the theme of today's webinar, Amy, I'm not going to actually put you on mute. There's a little bit of background noise. Um, Today's topic really is around some job search strategies and how to prepare yourself during a time when as I have said to people, at a time where it feels like there's nothing to do and you don't know what to do, but you want to be prepared for when that time changes. So right now I'm going to share my screen with everyone so that you can see a short presentation that I have prepared for you. And let me go back, and it would be good if I can make this, I guess that is probably full screen. So I just mentioned my name, and there's my information again. And before I jump into all the things that some tips to give you, I just want to do some basic highlights on what the Career Development Center at AppState does. So you're probably familiar with seeing flyers around campus for career fairs, resume reviews. We do, you probably are also familiar with Handshake. We have about 65% of all students on campus have actually logged into Handshake, and that really is your one-stop shop for all information about events going on campus, as well as jobs, interview schedules, and internships that are being posted. So what you'll see on this screen is an overview of the types of things that we do. And on the other side, you will see how we're doing those right now during this pandemic. Career coaches still have appointments every single day. You can still make your appointment in Handshake, and you'll meet your career coach in Zoom. We have been doing a lot of resume reviews that people have been sending virtually just through email, and the career guides and or the career coaches will review those and get those back to you. Every single Wednesday, you will get an email from us with Mountains of Opportunity, and that is a listing of a whole different groups of jobs, some local, some not local, some internships, full-time and part-time, that we think are of particular interest to students. And this coming Monday, and then again on April 27th, we're going to be hosting a virtual education career fair for people who are interested in working in schools. So let's jump on into sort of really the meat of this topic today. When we talk about a time of uncertainty right now, obviously it is COVID-19, but there have been other times of uncertainty. Actually, when I graduated from college, the economy was really terrible, but I was not nearly as prepared as I should have been. So I was pretty clueless about that. But we've had the tech bubble burst, the Great Recession of 2008, which no doubt many students, it impacted your families and your parents. And so what happens when there is uncertainty? First of all, it does cause a lot of anxiety. We can get caught up in the media, and it doesn't take much to get caught up in the media because it's with us 24/7. We can start to question our value, especially when you sit at home and you're doing classes online. It's really easy to start to feel disengaged and start to worry about what's going to happen, and to some degree obsess. And I think that's when sort of some of our primal instincts check in. We either fight or we flee. Some of us, I'm one of these people, tends to want to be overly productive, and other people react in a different way. So what we want to do today is give you some tips on how you can control your response to what's going on, even though you can't control what's actually happening. So first of all, I mentioned earlier sort of these primal experiences, and I think something that's really important to remember is that species are very adaptive, and we are a species. And the species that tend to survive are those that can change and they can be flexible. So if you're a senior or you're a student who had an internship planned for the summer and it hasn't gone quite like you planned, or if you're thinking you want to go to graduate school, but now you're a little worried about money because of the economy, that doesn't mean that that original plan, the plan that you've thought about and that you've worked towards, can't happen. It just may not happen in the same time frame that you had anticipated. So it's important at any time, but especially right now, to always have a plan B. And a plan B might be a little bit of a compromise, but it doesn't mean that it diverts you from your ultimate goal, and it continues to help you keep moving forward. So some tips that I'm going to share with you are listed here. Some of these I'm going to go into a little bit more detail on, and then we're going to build in time to hear from Amy, because she actually right now is doing many different jobs. She's wearing many different hats with her organization. Some she might have been prepared for, some she wasn't prepared for. But a couple of things I want to point out here before I move into the details is how important it is to really acknowledge where you are and what's going on. This is a really, really hard time, and some days you may feel more up than you do on other days. And it's important to give yourself permission to be where you are and not feel like you've got to be upbeat all the time. It's also a great opportunity to make sure that you know what the right data are, what you're hearing, is it real or is it not real? And it's also important as you get that accurate information to listen to your gut. Trust yourself. It's very easy sometimes to feel like you need to listen to other people, but at the end of the day, I'm a real believer that it's important to listen to yourself, and part of that comes from knowing your values and what's really important to you. So take care of yourself. I can't emphasize enough how important it is to follow all the guidelines that the Centers for Disease Control and our governor have put out. Stay at home, wash your hands. The rule for our house is no one walks in from the garage unless they wash their hands. You need to keep sleeping. You need to keep eating. You need to exercise, even if it's just taking a walk once a day, going outside. It's spring now and it's becoming really, really pretty. The Wellness Center has been doing some mindfulness training, and there are great resources on their website. And the University Rec Center has probably, I don't even know, there's 7 or 8 different classes every day that are going on that are free. So you don't need a gym membership. You can join one of those classes. Another thing that you can do right now as you start to plan for your future is to think about the things and the skills that you already have. In the Career Development Center, we refer to the NACE career competencies a fair amount, and those are this is a list of sort of the top factors and traits so that we know employers look for. These are the things that employers say make a difference when they get ready to hire students. And some of these you can gain through work, from volunteerism, through the courses that you take. If you've been involved in research on campus, you probably have learned some of these skills. So they don't all have to have come from a work or an internship experience. And because I have Amy on the phone and or on the screen with me, if I can, I'm going to unmute her, and I'm going to ask Amy, throw you on the spot here, if you might comment a little bit on these career readiness skills and which ones really stand out to you when you're looking to hire for your internship program with Enterprise.
Absolutely, Susan. So Enterprise Rent-A-Car, Enterprise Holdings, a lot of you know of us being in your neighborhoods as the rental car people. But we are more than just a rental car company. You know, our management trainee and our management trainee internship opportunity is very customer facing, very sales oriented. There's a lot of communication skills that are involved in being a successful intern and management trainee. So when I am looking for a quality candidate throughout the interview process, I'm identifying, just like Susan said, these core competencies to see if they're going to meet the needs of our business, for both our business and the individual to be successful. So some of the things that I am looking for, as I kind of already mentioned, was having a great communication style, being able to clearly articulate yourself, having the ability to problem solve and think on your feet, being very team oriented, and also being able to be a leader when necessary. Of course, sales and customer service are huge in our industry. But when I look at your list, Susan, I can also agree with that professionalism and really that work ethic too. So as a business professional, as a talent acquisition manager, some of those things that I look to, and Susan, you touched on this as well, was these are things that we can pull out from previous work experiences, but also volunteer experiences too can give students the opportunity to convey their abilities to thrive with those types of competencies.
Thank you, Amy. I appreciate that. It's always good to have a context here with a real employer. Okay, so let me move on to the next slide. One of the things that I saw a couple of weeks ago was a quote about athletes and how if you're an athlete, whether you're a runner, you play lacrosse, you're a swimmer, you do equestrian, there's so many unknowns whenever you go out to practice or perform. And that is a way that you learn to adapt and meet challenges. So I think one thing that is important to think about right now is to reflect on the challenges that you have had in the past. Maybe they're not as great as the challenges right now, but you, your family members, your faculty, your friends, they've all faced challenges. They've all had setbacks. And so now might be a really amazing time to talk to them about that. What did they do? How did they overcome those? And so one thing I'm going to also talk about is the importance of journaling. And this could be a great start to doing that. Another one of the bullets I shared earlier was to think about what are some new skills that you can develop. So this is just sort of a kind of a random list of some things that have come through my email or that I've seen over the past couple of weeks. So I got an email twice now about this group that is, I think they do recruiting for sports management, but normally people would have to pay to use their services. Right now, they're doing some free workshops on how to build a successful career in sports. Let's consider that maybe you are really into research and maybe you're an anthropology major. Well, how in the world are you going to do like an archaeological dig if you are in a stay-at-home order? So this one organization that does qualitative research was doing a webinar about how to do field work virtually. Another one that I thought was really interesting, and it's recorded, is a webinar that was offered by the American Psychological Association on how to cope in this era of coronavirus, a workshop specifically for students. But all of these associations right now are providing a lot of resources for professionals. But because they recognize the magnitude of this pandemic, many of these resources are available at no charge. And you should go to your website for your department, for your major, look under professional associations and see what types of resources are available there for you right now. It's also a great time to learn something new. I was talking to a student recently who said he was going to teach himself Python, which is a coding language. You might look and decide there's some community college courses that you might want to take. There are a ton of people learning to sew and bake bread right now. Even though that may not necessarily lead you to your profession, you never know, but it's going to help you keep your mind sharp and it's going to help keep you engaged. A lot of really high quality reading material is available for free right now. The Chronicle of Higher Education is free. The New York Times has taken down their paywall for certain sections. Same with the Wall Street Journal. TED Talks are always out there. And how many times do you hear about something, you're like, oh, I'm interested, but you don't make time to actually listen to it or read about it? Now is a time that you can do that. Also think that there are so many opportunities to really do some deep dives and think about this time as a case study. So for instance, if you are maybe a poli-sci major, you're interested in policy, then you might want to get a copy. Won't be hard to download that 800 to 900 page stimulus package and really go through that and think about what are the implications for public policy. Basically creating your own research project. And while it's self-designed, it's going to give you content and information that might be really, really valuable a year from now, 6 months from now, or even in a month. I mean, today I was looking online on Handshake, and the Center for Budget Policy in DC has probably a dozen internships that they're hiring for right now. Somebody who's gone through some of these policies and these tax implications that have just come out and been released by Congress is going to be really, really competitive for those types of opportunities. And obviously, there are going to be times right now where you may not get that part-time job. So where are some service and volunteer opportunities? Maybe you did a project with a class at Appalachian and you really were interested in that nonprofit. This could be a time to reach back out to them and see if there's something you can do virtually to support their mission. I mentioned how important it is to get accurate data. Right now, the headlines often are catastrophic. I mean, today I saw that the recession that we're about to embark in, it really is going to be a depression. The world productivity is going to plummet. Those are pretty stark headlines. Yet at the same time, today I read that Amazon is hiring 75,000 new employees, and many of them are going to be in North Carolina. So I think it's important to stay abreast of the news, but also to balance the news. And the other piece of this is that employers are hiring. I think my next slide, yeah, so this was from 2 weeks ago, and I know it's hard to see, but just to give you an idea, since yesterday, which was April the 13th, at Appalachian, we have approved 146 jobs and internships in Handshake. On average, we're having 20 to 25 new employers connect with us each week. And to give you an idea of what these jobs were that were posted since yesterday at Appalachian, they were not all working at Harris Teeter online, although I think some of those jobs were in there. But there was a state historian position in California. I've already mentioned the tax policy in organization in Washington, D.C. Schools are hiring. The schools actually are very concerned right now about having enough teachers to start the fall semester. Business analytics, IT, Vista Volunteer, a research project at Oak Ridge National Laboratories. The EPA is hiring. Loan officers are being hired by agencies as well as banks. And also there were several environmental jobs with an organization called the Watershed Project. So jobs are there. Your job, your role is to help prepare yourself so that you will be competitive for those. So what can you control right now? You can't control this pandemic. You cannot control the economy, but you can control your attitude and your outlook. Setting aside some goals for each day, having a structure for each day. I recently heard it takes 7 days to create a habit, 17 days to create a habit. So you can either create bad habits or good habits. You don't necessarily have to get up at 8 o'clock every morning, but set a time that you're going to get up and a routine that you're going to be a part of each day. That routine, that foundation, that structure will really, really help you. I think it is important. It may not be for everybody, but I do think this is an important time where you can really be introspective and think about what is important to you. What are your values? Write in your journal. What is your bucket list? What is the life that you want to have? What are your dreams? I still have all my journals from middle school, which is a little silly, but I also have all of my journals from college and when I graduated from college and came to Boone and really had no idea what I was going to do. I spent hours and hours sitting on the parkway journaling. And I love to go back and look at those and see how they really did guide me and help me determine what was important in my life. It's really hard right now not being with people. I think one of the things I realized over this weekend in going to church for the first time through Zoom is how much I miss seeing people that I only see in that context. And while you physically may not see them, the good news is that all of us have a little extra time on our hands. So this might be a really great opportunity to reach out to somebody that you may have met at a career fair, a networking event, somebody that your faculty member may have mentioned, an alum, and ask them if you might be able to set up an informational interview. That might be like with Amy saying, "Hey, Amy, I met you at the internship and job fair back in February in Holmes. I wasn't really interested in enterprise at the time, but now I'm more curious about it. Do you have 15 or 20 minutes to tell me about what an internship with enterprise would be, or even just to say, hey Amy, can I talk to you about what your own career path was?" Definitely working on your online profile is important. We had 3 career meetups this week focused on that, and those are recorded and available online. The last bullet on here is about building your team. um, this is an amazing time to feel supported in a lot of ways from people that you may not even know support you. So reaching out to those folks who've been sort of your champions and sort of, reconnecting with them if you haven't in a while. So this is not the slide I wanted. Oops, where is my slide with Amy? I don't know. I must have saved the wrong one. So I tell you what, let me go ahead and just summarize this and then I'm gonna turn this over to Amy. I actually have a slide. I must have pulled up the wrong presentation. I thought I had the right one that had all of Amy's information, but I'll make sure to include that. But really quickly, this is a marathon, it's not a sprint. This is life. Sometimes it turns us upside down on our head, and right now we're sort of upside down on our head spinning around. But the experiences and how you approach this time is really going to pay off for you in the long run. You will always be, I guess, sort of labeled as the generation that was in college during this time. So, what does that mean for you? How is that going to impact you? The economy that we have when we get through this is going to be different, but there are going to be a lot of new opportunities that we probably never even imagined. After the Great Recession in 2008, companies like Uber and Airbnb, Slack, Amazon took off after that. So keeping that in mind, and being, you want to be prepared for what comes along. You don't want to be the person who's sitting there going, oh gosh, I never thought that could happen. So let me stop there. I'm just going to go to this last slide. And Amy, actually what I'm going to do is I'm going to get rid of the slide because we don't need this. And let's get Amy here on the screen. And Amy, if you could just talk a little bit about, as you've been going through this with your company now for a good 4 to 6 weeks, what advice you have for students who are trying to be prepared, even though they may not be really sure what they're preparing for. And I will unmute you.
Thank you, Susan. Absolutely. So first and foremost, we are all in this together. I think that is the scary reality, is that it is impacting all of us, from college students to elementary students to professionals, workspaces all across, not just North Carolina, but the US and the world. And you have to admit that it is a scary place to be in, but you also have to find the positives and ways in which you can better yourself throughout this situation. And I think, Susan, you did a wonderful job laying out all of the different ways that we need to be thinking as individuals as to, when plan A doesn't work, what are we going to do to go from plan B to get back to plan A? And I think that personally in my workspace, as a talent acquisition manager, my main job with Enterprise is to find amazing talent coming to campuses, interacting with students, internship opportunities. And, that's not the reality right now. So I have really had to shift my plan A into a plan B and identify how am I going to use my skills to continue to be a successful business partner throughout my organization. So, thankfully, I've had the opportunity to really step into more of an HR role over the past few weeks and really more of a support to some of our employees that are going through these hard times. And the great thing is that I have wonderful relationships with all the people that I work with, to where they feel that trust and they feel that that ability to be able to talk to me, though they're going through some of these uncharted territories. And I think as students, it's important that you all recognize the fact that we are going to get through this. And what are we going to do in the meantime to where we come out of this situation on top? So, we talked about those competencies. Susan talked about those part-time jobs. And, maybe it's not a part-time job or an internship that was ideal. That was what you wanted to do, that plan A. But what is the silver lining to come out of this? What innovation are you going to be able to pull from this experience to where you can be a successful college grad getting that all-star job when things do turn around? So some things that I think would be very important during this time would be really to perfect your resume, would be to perfect all of your online sources, through Handshake, through LinkedIn, through Indeed. If you have the opportunity to use Athlete Work, that is a great resource also. And these are all sites for you as college students to where you can really highlight your competencies and your accolades, to where when the market in general turns around, all you have to do is say, I'm ready. I was ready this whole time. I didn't have to do anything to get ready. I'm the first one off the bus. Here is all of my credentials. I'm ready to start. So I think, working through the Career Center, making appointments with your career coaches, staying in communication with your professors, being an online learner for me I would have never been successful, because I am such a people person that I just need that interaction. And I think that as humans, that's pretty natural for all of us. So take some time to build some one-on-one time with your professors through a Zoom meeting, or even if it's just a phone call, just to check in and make sure that you're on track and that you're doing all the right things to set yourselves up for, junior going to senior year headed to graduation, freshman, sophomore, whatever seat you're on. Just making sure that you're staying on top of everything that you need to be ready for that next step when things do turn around.
Amy, I really liked what you just said about, staying connected to your faculty. I recently was having interaction with a student who said that one of their, and this is somebody who wasn't really very excited about doing online classes, but that one of their professors had emailed them last week and said, I can tell you're really eager and engaged, and I'd like to talk to you about some research opportunities that I'll have in the fall. So while it may seem that things are different, this could be an environment where you might be able to shine in a way that you maybe didn't, or other people outshone you before. So Amy, when we were talking the other day, you were saying that with Enterprise and your company, that you're seeing opportunities to do things differently. Obviously, that's true for us in higher education. And I guess I'm just curious if you might talk a little bit about the types of things students are doing right now, the types of learning that they're having to do, the adaptations they're having to do in their own private lives, and how they might be able to translate those when they start, pursuing internships. Like, I guess for one example I've thought about is we had a Zoom a few weeks ago with some student teachers, and it was the first week that public school had gone online. Well, about half of them were suddenly the technology expert for their cooperating teacher, which is not necessarily what they would have expected. But any thoughts or ideas about what current students have had to do to adapt and how that's going to position them for some of the changes you see in the world of business?
Yeah, so I don't know if I'm on mute or not. I think, can you hear me?
Well, sorry. Start
Okay,
over. I had it backwards.
that's okay, no problem. I think that as a student who is used to having that very specific routine, you have a specific time that you have to get to campus, you have to make sure you park, you have to make sure that you get to class and have all that time kind of very rigorous routine kind of already laid out for you. I think that the game's changed. And we have to be able to be self-starters. We have to be able to be self-motivated, which I think that, there's a particular amount of people that are those self-starters, those self-motivated. But this is really kind of where the ball is in our court. The ball is in to make sure that we are kind of taking a stepping up, and making sure that we're able to catch on to the students' perspective, catch on what you're learning, and making sure that you're understanding these concepts and that you're taking the time necessary to but I think that in a business world and with enterprise specifically, we've had to change a little bit of how we have been doing business. For example, we have the enterprise will pick you up, which is kind of like our trademark, right? Where we'll pick up our customers, bring them to the office, go through everything, and send them on their way. Well, with this global pandemic, that's not really in the best interest, according to CDC, for us to be picking up customers and bring them back to where we're in close proximities, bring them back into the office. So we have established more of like a drive-through method where customers are coming in, we're meeting them outside, we're not even bringing them into the office. So in my mind, and this is nothing that is officially enterprise trademarked, but this is just kind of my wheels are spinning. I'm starting to think innovation. How are we going to be able to continue now this way that may be more of an expedited method of service to our customers? How are we going to make the technology steps in that direction to where efficient, but also be more cost conscientious as well? So I think it's just little things, and you're put in these types of situations in life, you have to figure out ways to overcome. You have to figure out ways to move forward, to continue to be successful and to continue to carry on a business. So that's where I think that self-starter, that self-motivated, that innovative thinking is really going to help people stand out from those that maybe aren't.
Right. That's great. I really, that's a good example. And I'm seeing a little bit of that in just small business here in Boone. Stick Boy Bread Company, which we all love. They have online orders, but over the Easter holiday, they had plain cookies, and you could buy a kit to decorate your own cookie. And they're selling cookie dough because they're recognizing that there are different needs that people may have, and they're not going to be selling the same number of baked cookies because people are storing them. So yeah, I think you're right. It's the person who's thinking about how to solve those problems and to be innovative. And who also, I think, as students listening to this, again, it's not a race, it's not all about productivity, but it's thinking about what are your goals and setting those goals for yourself, and not giving up on those. So Amy, I want to thank you for being with us today. I will turn off the recording here in a minute. You and I can wrap up. And for anyone who gets a chance to see this, we're so glad that you joined us. And there are other career meetups at 10 and 2 every day. And we also have them recorded. So we look forward to you checking those out. And we look forward to seeing you for real, for live here on campus, hopefully in the not too distant future. So thanks again, Amy.